In 1550, Spain controlled more gold and silver than any nation in history. Ships arrived monthly from the Americas, loaded with treasure. They were the richest country on earth. By 1600, they couldn't afford to pay their own soldiers. And by 1700, they were irrelevant. America's doing the exact same thing right now. Different century, different mechanism, same fatal mistake. And just like Spain, most people won't realize what happened until it's way too late. By the end of this video, you're going to see why wealth isn't about how much money you have. It's about what you can produce. And when you forget that, empires collapse. Stay with me. So let me tell you what happened to Spain, because this story matters more today than it did 400 years ago. It's 1492. Columbus sails west, finds the Americas. Within decades, Spanish conquistadors have conquered the Aztec and Inca empires, and these empires were sitting on unimaginable wealth, gold, silver, the kind of treasure that doesn't exist anywhere else on Earth. The silver mines in Potosí, in what's now Bolivia, were the richest deposits ever discovered. At peak production, they supplied 60% of all the silver in the entire world. One mountain. 60% of global silver output. Spanish galleons started making regular trips across the Atlantic. Every year, tons of gold and silver flowing into Spain. Between 1500 and 1650, Spain imported roughly 180 tons of gold and 16,000 tons of silver. In today's money, that's over $3 trillion worth of precious metals. Spain became insanely wealthy overnight. The Spanish crown collected 20% of all treasure as the royal fifth. King Philip II had more money than any European monarch in history. Spain built the largest military, the biggest navy. Everyone feared them. They were the superpower. And then they destroyed themselves with all that wealth. Let me show you how. Here's what you need to understand. Wealth isn't gold sitting in a vault. Wealth is productive capacity. It's factories making goods, farms growing food, workers building things people want. Real production creates real prosperity. Spain forgot this. They had so much gold flowing in that they stopped producing anything themselves. Why work in a Spanish factory when you can just import goods with American treasure? Why farm Spanish land when you can buy grain from France? Spanish industries collapsed. They couldn't compete with cheap imports bought with gold. Spanish agriculture declined. Manufacturing disappeared. Spain became a country that produced almost nothing and imported almost everything. But here's where it gets really interesting. All that gold and silver, it didn't stay in Spain. It flowed right back out to pay for imports. Dutch merchants, French farmers, Italian bankers, they were all getting rich off Spanish gold because they were the ones actually producing things. Spain was like a person who wins the lottery and then spends it all on rent and groceries without ever getting a job. The money runs out eventually, and then what? But it gets worse. Spain had the biggest military in Europe, and they were fighting wars constantly. Netherlands, France, England, the Ottomans. Wars everywhere, all the time. And wars are expensive. King Philip II was spending twice as much as he earned, even with all that American silver coming in. So he borrowed, heavily, from Italian and German bankers. He'd promised to pay them back with future silver shipments. Except the silver wasn't enough. Military spending kept growing. More wars, more costs. So Spain did what every government does when they run out of money. They debased the currency. They'd take silver coins, melt them down, mix in copper, stamp out more coins. Suddenly they had twice as many coins from the same amount of silver. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Merchants figured it out immediately. The coins had less silver, so they raised prices. If you're getting paid in diluted currency, you charge more. That's just economics. Inflation exploded in Spain. Prices quadrupled in the 1500s. The Spanish called it the price revolution. But it was actually currency destruction. Spain was debasing their money faster than treasure could arrive from the Americas. Spanish soldiers started getting paid in worthless coins. Their salaries couldn't buy food, so they mutinied. Spain's legendary military began falling apart. Soldiers would refuse to fight unless paid in real silver. Some just walked off battlefields. Meanwhile, Spain's debt kept growing. Philip II couldn't make payments to bankers, so in 1557, he declared bankruptcy, just refused to pay. The Spanish government said, "We're not paying our debts, deal with it." But the silver mines were still producing, so bankers restructured the loans and kept lending. Spain declared bankruptcy again in 1575, and 1596, and 1607, 7 times in 150 years. Each time they'd restructure, promise to pay, then default again. By 1650, Spain was a shadow of what they'd been. The treasure fleet still arrived, but the money vanished immediately into debt payments and military costs. The economy was hollow. Spain produced almost nothing, and they were drowning in debt despite having the richest colonies on Earth. Now here's why this matters to you. America's doing the exact same thing. Different mechanism, same pattern. And it's happening right now. Let me show you what I mean. In 1950, America produced 50% of the world's manufactured goods. 50%. We made everything. Cars, steel, electronics, machinery, clothing. The world bought American products because they were the best. America didn't have gold mines. We had something better. Factories, innovation, a workforce that could build anything. That was our wealth, real productive capacity. But then something changed. Starting in the 1970s and accelerating in the 1990s, American companies started moving production overseas. Why? Because labor was cheaper in other countries, and shareholders wanted higher profits. Factories moved to Mexico, then to China, then to Vietnam, Bangladesh. Everywhere labor was cheap, and Americans were told this was good. We'd become a service economy. We'd do the high-value work like design and marketing, and let other countries do the boring manufacturing. Sounds reasonable, right? Except here's what actually happened. We stopped making things. And once you stop making things, you lose the ability to make things. The expertise disappears, the supply chains relocate, the equipment gets sold off. Look at what happened to American steel. In 1970, the US produced 20% of the world's steel. Today, about 5%. We import most of our steel now from China, from other countries. Electronics? Almost everything's made in Asia now. Your phone, your computer, your TV, all made overseas. Even products designed in America are manufactured somewhere else. Textiles and clothing? Forget it. That industry's completely gone. Try finding clothes made in America. Good luck. We've hollowed out our industrial base, and we replaced it with what? Finance. We print dollars, we create financial products, we run the global reserve currency. Just like Spain had the gold, we have the dollar. And just like Spain, we use that financial advantage to import everything. We run massive trade deficits. America imports way more than it exports. We buy foreign goods with dollars we can print. That works great as long as everyone accepts dollars. But here's where Spain's pattern repeats. We're not producing wealth. We're just importing it. The real production is happening somewhere else. China's building factories. Germany's making machines. Japan's innovating technology. America's managing money and running up debt. Our national debt is $36 trillion. We're borrowing to maintain our military, just like Spain. We're borrowing to fund government programs. We're printing money to cover deficits. And we're debasing the currency through inflation, just like Spain debased their silver coins. The inflation we saw in 2022, hitting 9%, that's not temporary. That's the consequence of printing trillions of dollars. When you create money without creating real goods, prices go up. Spain learned this in the 1500s. We're learning it now. And here's what's really concerning. America's military dominance is expensive. We have over 750 military bases in 80 countries. Defense budget over $877 billion per year. We're maintaining a global empire just like Spain did, and it costs more than we can afford. So we borrow, we print, we run deficits, because cutting military spending seems too risky. What if China expands? What if adversaries take advantage? Spain had the same fears. They couldn't stop fighting wars, even though it was bankrupting them. But here's the thing about empires built on financial strength instead of productive strength. They're fragile. Spain's empire depended on silver from the Americas. When that silver couldn't cover their spending, everything collapsed. America's empire depends on the dollar being the global reserve currency. As long as everyone needs dollars for trade, we can print them and buy real goods. But what happens when that changes? China's been building alternatives. They've created payment systems that don't use dollars. They're settling trade in yuan. They're accumulating gold. They're doing exactly what America did before Bretton Woods, building the foundation for their currency to replace ours. And why is China able to do this? Because they produce things, real things. They manufacture half the world's goods now. If you need something made, it's probably made in China. That's real economic power. Not financial tricks, not printed money, actual production. Meanwhile, America's losing that capability. We've outsourced so much that we can't even produce basic necessities independently anymore. During COVID, we couldn't make enough masks or medical equipment. We had to import from China. That's embarrassing for a superpower. If there's ever a conflict with China, or if supply chains break down, America's in trouble. We can't quickly rebuild factories we shut down decades ago. The expertise is gone. The infrastructure's gone. You can't just flip a switch and start producing again. Spain learned this the hard way. Once their industries died, they couldn't revive them. Other countries had taken over those markets. Spanish workers had lost the skills. The economy had restructured around imports. There was no going back. America's on the same path. We're a financial empire now, not a productive one. We manage money instead of making things. And financial empires are always more fragile than productive ones. Here's what keeps me up at night. Spain's collapse took about 150 years from peak to irrelevance. They peaked around 1580. By 1700, they were done. In today's fast-moving world, how long will America's decline take? Not 150 years, maybe 30, maybe less. And just like Spain, most people won't see it coming. Spain kept importing treasure right up until they collapsed. Americans are still printing dollars and importing goods. Everything seems fine until suddenly it's not. The warning signs are there. Manufacturing jobs gone. Trade deficits growing. National debt exploding. Currency losing value through inflation. It's the same pattern Spain followed, just with different tools. The difference is we can still change course. Spain probably couldn't. By the time they realized their mistake, their industries were already dead. America still has some manufacturing. We still have innovation. We could rebuild our productive capacity if we made it a priority. But are we? No. We're doubling down on the financial model. More debt, more printing, more importing. Because it's easier. Because rebuilding factories is hard and expensive and takes decades. Politicians don't get reelected for starting projects that won't pay off for 20 years. So we'll probably keep doing what Spain did. Keep borrowing, keep spending, keep pretending financial strength equals real strength. Until one day the dollar loses reserve status and we can't afford to import everything anymore. And then what? We'll be like Spain in 1700, rich in history, poor in production. A former superpower that nobody fears anymore. If you're realizing that America's economy is built on the same illusion that destroyed Spain, then subscribe. Hit that like button. Because we're showing you the patterns that governments hope you won't notice until it's too late to do anything about it. And here's what I want to know. Drop a comment. Can America reverse this, or are we too far down Spain's path? Can we rebuild our industrial base, or is the financial model too entrenched to change? Tell me what you think, because Spain didn't see their collapse coming either. They thought the silver would last forever. It didn't. And America thinks the dollar will last forever. History says it won't.